go again with the PI planning program Increment Planning in SAFe. How to plan for a quarter and not go insane. Here's the challenge. In the video SAFe explained, we agreed that SAFe is like a love child of a control freak and a program manager on a power trip. Then in PI planning preparation, the previous video, I warned you that PI planning is a nightmare on the SAFe street. Today we will dive into the PI planning exercise and you will understand all those previous statements. Because perhaps you were under the impression that I'm the one with a few screws loose. Let's see. Hi, I'm Maria and this is the Agile State of Mind. Welcome! If you venture into the PI planning manual on the SAFe website, apart from wanting to run away, you will stumble upon this gem. Just by the word count, you can tell it's a huge endeavor. And your predictions are right. So let's break it down into the bite-sized chunks for easier consumption. 1. Who should participate in PI planning? According to SAFe, it's a little like Fight Club. The unwritten SAFe rule is that the people who do the work plan the work. So it's the whole arts agile release trains, meaning all the teams who are planning the program increment, which I will be calling a quarter, again, for simplification. 2. What's the agenda? Farther in the manual we read. PI planning has a standard agenda that includes a presentation of business context and vision, followed by team planning breakouts, where the teams create their iteration plans and objectives for the upcoming PI. Wow, we plan for the upcoming PI, so you might ask, how long does it take to plan for a quarter? PI planning takes 2 days, although the art can extend the time box to accommodate planning across multiple time zones. So let's bring the agenda. You can see here the agenda for day 1 and day 2. As we said previously, we have business context, product solution vision. So those things are presented by the higher management of your organization. Make sure they know they need to do that. We also have the architecture vision, development practices, planning context, and so on. And then we have team breakouts. We will come back to what are the team breakouts just in a moment. And by the end of the first day, there's plan review. So the teams already planned something and we review it. At the end of the day, there's usually a management call where we call out all the risks and things we stumbled upon and didn't expect and we should resolve. For example, it might be that we don't have enough people to work. Those are the things the management can resolve. And then we have another second day, we have planning adjustments, team breakouts again, and final plan review. Then there is the confidence vote and maybe a rework if needed, if the confidence vote is really low. Confidence vote means we vote how confident we are on the plan that we just created. And then we have retrospective and move on. Number 3. Who will facilitate that? And we continue reading the manual. Facilitated by the release train engineer RTE. This event includes all members of the art and occurs within the Innovation and Planning IP iteration. We already have a PI for the program increment and now we got IP for the Innovation and Planning iteration. Remember the timeline that I showed you in the previous video? Here it is. So this timeline shows in a quarter, we usually have 6 sprints. 6 sprints of 2 weeks, right? The last sprint is this innovation and planning. SAFe explains. Holding the event during the IP iteration avoids affecting the scheduling or capacity of other iteration in the PI. What does it mean? It's like the surprise party of the quarter. Think hackathons, training, and the planning exercise. So you know, like people do dual track, continuously planning for the next sprint and working on the current sprint. Here they say, no, stop. After 5 iterations, you stop and you start innovating and planning. In theory, you shouldn't be bothered to plan during those 5 iterations. Do you think that's doable? You know the answer, right? Now, in the real world, the 6th sprint is our golden ticket to finish the leftovers from the 5th sprint. Surprise, surprise! And get ready for this classic hit. Can this team or this art postpone the planning because we haven't finished our super important initiative? Brace yourselves, it's coming! Since you are the facilitator, you need to make all this information available for the team representatives, which are usually the team leaders and the product owners. They will be the RT hotline, the contact people for PI planning preparation. Create some kind of a PI planning readiness meeting or channel and invite all the team reps to prep them for what's coming. And then it's on them to cascade that information to the teams. 4. What tools do we use for the PI planning? That's the key question, right? As it was designed for the face-to-face big room planning for dozens of developers, was kind of piece of cake compared to what we need to do in the remote. In the real world, you just needed some flip charts, post-its, and markers. Off you go! But in a remote land, it's a more complicated undertaking. So picture this. Before the planning, the PO arrives with epics. The team sizes them up and they play a game of Tetris to fit them into 5 sprints. Then, during the breakout time, remember the team breakouts from the agenda? During the PI planning, the team splits those epics that we already know fit into those 5 sprints and creates smaller user stories that also need to fit in those 5 sprints. Again, we create a Tetris of what fits into which sprint, much better off. And, most important thing, we already know we have dependencies with other teams. Remember, component teams? Make sure that the stories that have dependencies with other teams are identified and mitigated somehow. So if they depend on us, we do the work before them. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. Result, we have 5 sprints full of user stories based on team capacity. Remember to plan for bank holidays and team vacations. And we have dependencies identified and mitigated, resolved with the other team. Now we know what we need to have done. Let's talk about the tools. I will give you 2 options. One is the ticketing tool that you actually use, be it Jira, Azure DevOps, whatever. And this one sounds like a piece of cake. It's just a matter of creating the future sprints and filling them in with the user stories. You can link them with the other team's user stories to mark dependencies. It's like planning on an easy mode, a seamless flow from planning to the daily grind. Perfect, right? Yet, for some reason, it's not the go-to move. I suspect it's because the management is not used to the Jira jungle and they don't understand as much from it as we do. What's for us perfectly easy and transparent is for them difficult to appreciate. And we end up lost in translation. That's why I will give you choice number 2, which teams don't appreciate much, because it means more work for them. That's the digital whiteboard. On one hand, the digital whiteboards are pretty and nice. They even come with ready-made templates for PI planning. So it feels like planning on an autopilot. They're sleek, user-friendly, and you can hop from one team's board to another like a digital ninja. The catch is that the teams need to move all their work from the whiteboard to the ticketing system. And at some point, it creates confusion to which is the single point of truth. The chaos arises, and at some point, it's the oops, I deleted the whole team's work situation. Yep, it happened. Make backups. I wonder if you have any ideas or experiences with some tools for PI planning. Share them in the comments below. Let's swap stories and maybe tools. And the next one would be the PI objectives. But don't get me started on this subject. You would be better off learning about that from the manual. And that's all for today. I know, it is a planning marathon. Take a deep breath. It gets smoother with time. You will see that in a couple of years, you will not feel the heaviness of the PI planning on your chest. Just kidding. It will take a few PI plannings, but things will lighten up. Fingers crossed for all of us. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.